The Legend of Zelda has a simple, straightforward, and easily recognized user interface. The pause menus are fun to navigate. They have all the information you could need as far as your items, maps, and dungeon items are concerned. Even your progression is tracked in these pause menus. And that's something I need to replicate for my own Zelda-like game. In this devlog for my Minish Cap inspired 2D Zelda-like game created in Godot, I'm going to go over the new inventory menu that I have created for the game. This menu will allow you to track things like progression items, ingredients, your money, and even the dungeon items that you get, which in this game are going to be spells. So let's get into it. Before we get into the inventory though, I did promise in my previous devlog that I would go over the grass cutting feature in my game. This is an important part of any Zelda-like. It has been part of the franchise since A Link to the Past, so of course my own Zelda-like needs grass cutting. It's kind of the primary source of income for Link, mowing people's lawns without asking. So how did I do it? First, of course, I need the player's actual attack animation. This placeholder sprite already has an attack animation built into it, so it was pretty easy for me to set up. It has an attack animation for all 4 directions, so I set those up in the game. And I also created an attack collider. In the final game, I do want more than just one attack for the player, but for right now and for the foreseeable future, having just this single attack works perfectly fine for all of my purposes. I did, however, add the building blocks in place to create additional attacks and chaining attacks in the future so that when I do take time to do that, it will be pretty easy for me to set up. Once the player's attack animation was set up, I needed to actually create some grass for the player to cut. I did this with a sprite. Again, I am not an artist. I am doing my best here, but I did make some grass for the player to cut. I made different variations of each grass. I even added different color variants to it so that in the future, I can very easily change what the grass looks like based on the environment that it's in. Right now, it just has a few different variants that it can possibly show up as, and then the grass, when it's cut, plays one of 2 random particle animations and disappears. I set that up in the editor, and then I just need to make it so that it can detect when it has been attacked and destroy itself. After that, it has a random chance to drop an item using the same drop table interface that I have for breakable pots in my game, which is one of my favorite things about Godot. I've talked about it before, but I'll say it again. Resources are brilliant. Being able to just attach a resource to multiple different objects and have that resource do what it needs to do is fantastic. My drop table script just reads the drop table resource that an entity has attached to it and then drops things based on that. So I don't have to make a unique drop table for each of these different items. The pots and the grass both currently have the exact same drop table. That makes the workflow here an absolute breeze. So I was able to get the grass dropping things in no time once the player destroyed it. But eventually I had a whole patch of grass in my initial test setup that is working perfectly. All it really needed from there was just some sound effects for the grass cutting to really feel right. And again, sound effects, really just any amount of juice adds so much to gameplay. Adding a couple of grass cutting sound effects to this absolutely sells it. And now it really feels like a Zelda-like. Let's go ahead and move on to the more complicated and more challenging inventory UI. I have said before, and I'll say again, I'm not an artist, and I think that this is very exemplified by the UI art that I create here, because all of it is off by 1 pixel, something that I'm gonna fix in the future. I kind of screwed up the inventory UI, but it does work, it does function, you can interact with the inventory, and that's all I really needed for this, was being able to give myself items and see what items I have in the game. My inventory is divided into multiple panels, and all of those are contained within their own subgrids. Some of those grids are horizontal and vertical full grids, some are just horizontal, and some are just vertical. Each of these are then also set into sections. We have the ingredients section, the mobility section, the spells section, which will be your dungeon items, and we also have your salves or concoctions, which are going to be what you use to restore things like hit points, magic, energy, that sort of thing. And then we also have a panel for currency. Then in the very center of the inventory panel is the info box panel, which is going to be giving you information on whatever it is in the inventory UI that you are hovering over in the moment. In most Zelda games, this just tells you what the name of the item is. Here it's going to tell you what the name of the item is and how you actually use the item all in one center box. That brings us to the cursor, because as you're navigating, you need to actually know what it is that you are hovering over. So I added a cursor. The cursor is actually just a flat image that has an animation player attached to it. And then based on whether or not the panel is active, its own cursor image will appear and play its animation. Otherwise, the cursor will be hidden and its animation will not be playing. This is a really straightforward and simple way to do it. I'm sure there is probably an easier way to do it, but for me, this was really simple to set up. I just made a unique cursor image for each of the panel types because there's multiple different shapes, and it works. It works really well. You can see where you're navigating to, and that's great. With all of that set up though, I did have to do something rather tedious. First, I brought everything into Figma and then mapped out how I wanted the navigation to feel, what I thought would feel right. Where do I expect, as I am pressing these buttons, my cursor to appear next? So I mapped all of that out with Figma, which was really helpful. Then I just adhered to that while I set up my menu navigation. The menu navigation system that I have set up is just a series of exports that exports panels, and then it asks for those panels to be input so that it knows where to go when you push up, down, left, or right. You can do this pretty easily, but it just was very tedious. I'm again sure there's a more expedited and straightforward way to do this. It doesn't require so much manual work, but it did function for me, which was great. Finally, I grabbed some navigation sound effects. To make these sound effects, I used chewing and biting sounds, and then I crunched those down and really cut them into short little snippets, and we got this fun little navigation sound. Just like all of my sounds, it pulls from a sound library resource that I've created and picks a random sound effect from that library. So we have multiple different sound effects in the navigation library, so you're not hearing the exact same one every single time that you move. And now that we have our inventory actually working, you can move around in it, you can navigate it, you can pause and unpause the game. It's time to populate the inventory with items. This was the most tedious part because it involved a lot of artwork, and again, I don't really know what I'm doing as far as pixel art is concerned. Just like everybody else who gets their start on this, I am learning and I'm growing, and I'm definitely seeing myself improve over the course of this, but I made some pixel art for the first set of items, the ingredients, because I knew that there were the most of these. There are 8 total ingredients. My current thought is you will collect these ingredients across the world. Then once you have enough of a certain ingredient, probably 2 different ingredients, you will take those ingredients to an NPC who can then upgrade one of your items based on what ingredients you have at your disposal. This makes it really easy for me to scatter rewards throughout the world that don't just feel like, oh, I got another chest with some rupees in it. Now you have ingredients that are actually going to upgrade your character and help you improve in the game. So I started making the pixel art for the ingredients, and as you can tell here, I'm still in the process of learning, but I essentially made a mini version of each of them, which is a 16 by 16 pixel. This is what will appear when the character holds the item over the head upon getting it. And then I made a inventory version of it, which is a 32 by 32 piece of art. And then that one has an animation sprite that it can play while that ingredient is being hovered over. Again, I kind of went overboard with this, especially given that I know all of this is just placeholder, but it does look pretty good in the inventory and just gives you an even better visual cue as to what it is you are currently looking at and hovering over to see that item animating in the menu. And then there's also an outline version. This is what appears when you have not yet acquired the item that will go into that panel slot. This was mostly just that I could visualize in the menu before I've received the item that I have put everything into the correct place and that things will be working once I do give myself the item, but it will probably still be in the game. I think that having an outline there to tell you that you're missing something and approximately what it is you're missing is a good idea. Finally, I made the menu item resource because again, I love resources in Godot, and I gave it all the information that it needed, all of the images, and a name, description, and effect. All of this is information that will populate in the information box while the item is hovered. After that, it was just a tedious task of creating the 8 ingredient items in order to make everything look good. For the ingredient items, we have blood clots, stardust, hearts, kidneys, ritual steel, meteorite, missing one more. Oh, fulgurite. That's all of it, right? Okay. Yeah. Next, it was time to add the UI elements for the dungeon items that I have planned for my game. Right now, these are spell books. I don't know if that's going to persist, but right now I'm just kind of putting everything into one item that is a spell book. You can equip those to different action buttons. So I made the UI elements for the spell books. Again, it has a mini version, it has a set frame animation, and then it also has an outline version for each of them. I made one for a slow spell, flame, summon, grapple, and hammer, because you always need a nice way to smash and destroy stuff. And And from there, I added the ability to assign these spells to certain buttons. This took even longer than the menu navigation setup, just to make sure that the correct information was being passed and being passed in a timely and effective fashion. But now, if you have a spell in your inventory, you can assign that spell to one of 3 action buttons. The way that it's assigned is also pretty dynamic. It detects if there is already an existing spell in that, and if there is, then it swaps those 2 spells, just like in Zelda. If you try to equip into a C button that currently has something equipped to it, and you can unassign spells by equipping something else to it, but once you have something equipped, you can't just make that action button empty afterward. So that is all working, and then after that, I added some basic sound effects and some animations, and it looks and feels really good now. Oh. Now that I have these spells set up and I can assign them to action buttons and the player knows what spell is assigned to what action button when that action button is pressed, the game is set up for me to easily cast spells. Well, I say easily. It's already set up so that if I push the button, it sends a message that says that I've cast the spell, but actually creating the spell functionality is going to take quite a bit of time. That's not what I'm going to tackle in the next video though. In the next video, I'm going to be tackling item get, chests, containers of that nature, and then a special mechanic for dashing, backstepping, and then a mobility upgrade that I'm pretty excited about that will allow the player to move very quickly across the field. So look forward to all of that and more in my next devlog. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this devlog. I really appreciate it, especially you watching all the way here at the end of the video. At the beginning of the year, a huge swath of my team of technical writers, including myself, lost our jobs that we had held for several years. Which was unexpected and unfortunate, and I have not had a single lead since then. I don't think any of us has, because it is incredibly tough out there. Now is not a very good time to be out of a job. So between searching for work and applying for jobs and updating my resume over and over again, I am working on this project, and it has been a fun little escape. More so than that though, I've really enjoyed all the positive, supportive, and encouraging remarks that I have gotten from people since I started uploading these devlogs. It is really helping me keep going, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for participating. I guess I will see you in the next devlog. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.